Hey everyone, and welcome to the Headliner Podcast. We're your hosts, Nicholas and Elissa, and we're here to keep you in the loop on all of the things you can do to promote your podcast. So, Elissa, what are we talking about today?
So, I don't know if you heard the news, but Taylor Swift was finally on a podcast, right? And for somebody of my generation, this is exciting. But how is this relevant to our podcast, you asked? So glad you asked.
Other than making me feel just absolutely decrepit. Yeah.
Exactly. Today, we're going to be talking about the power of guests and more specifically, how having guests can help grow your show.
Okay. Very cool. Very timely episode. You were so psyched to do this, and let's hear it.
I scrapped your actual script that you had. And I
Yeah.
said, nope, we're doing
I
this
was
one.
proactive. I was in the middle of writing a script. There was research happening somewhere.
No.
And then you were just like, no, Taylor Swift announced an album. And I'm like, okay, yeah, that's fine.
And I just killed it. But anyways, yeah.
Someone of your generation would do that to me. Anyway, let's move on, shall we?
Anyways, yeah. So having a guest, it can really impact your show. So of course, I brought up the whole Taylor Swift thing. So I'll just read off a couple of quick stats about Taylor Swift and her impact on podcast. So Taylor Swift was on the New Heights podcast Wednesday.
Yeah.
Today's Friday. It was
like
on
that.
Wednesday, August 13th. So she just really announced like 2 days before that she was actually going on herself, and then New Heights and social media was like, hey, Taylor Swift's going to be on a podcast. And then she was on a podcast. And that's the stage.
And that was that. And it stopped the internet, legitimately stopped the internet for a day.
It did. Still going 2 days later.
Okay. So now that we have that out of the way, yeah, let's talk about the guests and the effects of it and all the good stuff.
Yeah. So kind of in the context of, so we'll start out like more like the impact that celebrities have. Just, obviously they kind of make the headlines a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
But so typically like the New Heights podcast, like it has obviously a pretty decent followership. It has two celebrities, the Kelsey brothers, that are heading it up. So it's pretty easy for them to reach a larger audience. But right off the bat, just having the guest Taylor Swift increase their viewership by over like 600%, specifically in the female demographic. So kind of crazy to jump off right there. It's speculated that they're going to be breaking records. They did break records for having the largest live audience of a podcast, kind of tuning in, streaming it via YouTube. So according to the Daily Beast, 1.3 million people were watching live on YouTube during the first hour on Wednesday's show. For context, that's nearly double the number of people that watched Trump's appearance on the Joe Rogan Experience last October.
Wow.
Yeah. So the Rogan Trump thing, it had about 800,000 people, which obviously massive number. But yeah, the New Heights podcast with Taylor Swift just absolutely crushed that.
Yeah. Literally, it's a no contest. Yeah.
And then again, kind of continuing that same story. At the time of us recording this, the New Heights episode has nearly 9.5 million views. And that was actually me pulling those stats like last night. So it's up, I think, to like closer to 11 million right now. But I don't want to confirm that. And then additionally, kind of thinking about retention, subscriptions were up 90K within 14 hours of them announcing the actual Taylor Swift appearing on the New Heights show.
And I mean, to put that into perspective, yes, they're celebrities, but even for like a massive celebrity podcast, those are like unfathomable numbers, right? That's insane.
Yeah, I mean, it really is insane, kind of the precedence that that's set. Just having somebody of her caliber on a podcast.
Yeah, exactly. So on that note, Elissa, why don't you tell me why it matters and what the average podcaster can get from, having guests on their show? Obviously, I don't think like the Cozy Reading Nook podcast is going to have Taylor Swift on. I don't want to say that. Sorry, Cozy Reading Nook podcast, if you're out there. I am so sorry, but, maybe you will. But like, tell me a bit about this, the guests.
Of course. So, I mean, guest, yeah. And to obviously set the stage, like we're not saying that every podcast is going to have these types of numbers. We would love if that happened. Podcasting would love if that happened.
Hey, maybe Taylor Swift is going to pivot. Maybe she's going to be like, I've recorded music. My passion is appearing on podcasts now.
She could. But just by having a guest on your show, you're kind of automatically opening your audience up to their audience. So your guests typically come on your show because they have some type of expertise or some type of value that they provide your show. But with that, they have an additional audience and network that you can tap into. So just by having it, you have a great reach opportunity to, especially if they start promoting the show ahead of time or after recording, what have you, you're having a direct pipeline to new ears that don't necessarily listen to your show, and there might be overlap. That would be awesome if there was. But ideally, you're kind of reaching people that have never even heard about your show. And
Yeah.
now they're seeing somebody that they know, they trust on it. So they're actually more likely to listen. And then the path to long-term listenership and ultimately like the conversion to listenership, which is really hard on social
Yeah.
media, is a lot stronger.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense to me. And we can see this in even like the Taylor Swift appearance you were talking about. There was like a huge boom in their listenership among women. A bunch of women who maybe don't listen to podcasts, certainly not that show, tuned in. And if even 2% of them stick around for the next episode, in that case, that is thousands of people. Now, we're not going to see that on the same scale for you, but if you have a podcast and you're trying to grow your audience, it does help to cast that wider net. I'm going to use movie podcasts because that's kind of my gimmick. If you're a horror movie podcast and you only do like 80s slasher movies, and then there's another podcast with a slightly larger audience that only does 2000s slasher movies, cutting it down the middle and doing a 90s one allows both of your audiences to commingle and interact with each other. And hey, 80s slashers and 2000 slashers are just similar enough that people might cross over.
And then kind of in the true fashion of the show, I have a stat.
Oh yeah, let's hear it.
So
Save
guess,
me, please.
So I'm sorry. I know we could talk about slasher movies for a long period of time,
Yeah.
but I'm trying to save the rants. But anyways, so not only can guests kind of improve your reach and just, open you up to those audiences, but they can actually boost your credibility and authority. So according to an article by The Medium, so there's this kind of thing, it's called trust transfer. But 64% of listeners consider hosts more trustworthy than other influencers if they feature guests that lend to your credibility by association. So what this is saying is having somebody kind of within the area of expertise that somebody knows, somebody trusts, they'll actually be more likely to listen and trust your show by 64% just by having somebody else on.
Okay, interesting. Very similar to just word of mouth sort of stuff. No one wants to be sold anything, but if you're told it's good or you're shown it's good, even better, you're going to give it a shot. Interesting.
Exactly. And, there's the whole idea of kind of the influencer economy today. If you have that relationship with somebody or you're like, oh, I love their content, you're a lot more likely to buy from them. And that's kind of why there's this whole idea of influencers now. So kind of, transferring that into the world of podcasting, having people of some type of expertise or that have some type of relationship, you're going to get, those people that follow them to then in turn trust you a little bit more.
Sure. Makes perfect sense. It does remind me also of like the early YouTube days, pre-influencer culture, where you'd have people just do like straight up collabs where it's like, hey, I'm going to hang out with this other YouTuber and we're going to vlog for the day. And we get that cross-pollination of audiences. But if you guys are talking about something related to what your channel was about, you do have that kind of reinforcement of, hey, this other person that I respect likes this person. Let me go and see what they're about.
And even just kind of going into that a little bit more, like today, if you were to just Google how do I grow my podcast?
Yeah.
It's a lot of the articles that are written by a lot of really important people in podcasting or people that have done a lot of research in podcasting. They're going to say collaborate with other people. So guest, co-host, that kind of stuff, just having people on is a proven way to grow your show. But kind of outside of that, having guests kind of gives you more opportunities for stickiness and evergreen content. So they're always, so like your host is always going to have not your host, excuse me, your guest is going to have some type of expertise in there. So you'll kind of be able to repurpose that continuously and just kind of go back to that episode and reference it. So you'll have kind of the ability to continuously reclip it, post it. If you have additional content streams, like you have a blog or something, you have the ability to backlink to that episode, which if you're a nerd like me, you think about SEO and that kind of stuff. Backlinking, it just kind of helps layer um, like different sources, which makes it a little bit stronger of a content piece. And then
Hmm.
you get, cross pollination again. People are like reading your blog, they click on the link, they go to the podcast, they listen. Now they're like, oh my gosh, this person has a podcast too. That's amazing. So you just kind of have like those opportunities in which that just the gift that keeps on giving.
Yeah, totally. And, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's probably a tool or two somewhere, cough, cough, us, that helps you repurpose some of that content you can use for backlinking and all that stuff. Maybe? Am I wrong in saying that, perhaps?
Oh, you're not wrong at all.
Cool. It feels good to be
So
right. It's a new feeling. I wanna chase that feeling.
well, I'll go ahead and plug it now. But so Headliner, we do have a tool. It's called Eddy. It is a transcript based editor, but within that, you have this thing called the podcast promo pack. It comes with every project that you do. But Eddy pulls not only show notes, keywords, all that wonderful things. It also pulls out like kind of references for you. So if you say, I don't know, what's a slashers movie, Nicholas? Can you think of one?
Halloween, the classic one.
So if you're talking about Halloween and you say it, once or twice, Eddie's going to pick up on that. It's going to say, oh, okay, let me just Google that real quick. And it'll basically just pull out like a link for it. So you'll have that reference as well. So that's the layman's way of saying that's how it works. But it gives you a really nice reference page that you can just kind of copy and paste into your show notes. If Eddie doesn't do it for you, if that's something that you typically do with your podcast, you have all the links and everything, it'll go ahead and add them in there into your show notes, but separately you'll have that reference page.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so we've talked about the benefits of guesting. We've talked about how guesting is cool. How does one find a guest? Do I just like stand on the side of a highway with a sign that says, "Do you have a podcast? Call 555-5555"? If so.
I mean, you could,
Okay,
and
cool.
I would
Because
say
I'm like 20 seconds from doing it.
I would say it probably depends on the type of show. So if you have a really like random show, sure, that could probably work for you. But typically, what people are going to do is they're going to actually look in their own network or just
Hmm.
start to kind of look around like LinkedIn and see, hey, what kind of profiles match my profile? What voices am I interested in? That kind of thing. So you can start to use your own network and see, like, oh, is there somebody that has an area of expertise? Like, so for example, I'll use the Headliner podcast. So we have had Podbean on the show before. So we've talked about monetization. That's not necessarily something I'm super well versed in. And at the time of that recording, I was the host. I did not have Nicholas to lean on and source and help me. It was a sad time.
No, it's fine. Like, for what it's worth, I also derail the show quite often. So
We
it's give
both
and
do.
take. Yeah.
Anyway, so reached out to Podbean. They came on the show and they talked about monetization opportunities. And especially for somebody like me, that's not my area of wheelhouse. So I could just ask them questions and they could tell us about it. And it was a really great opportunity for the show. And we just we still use that show today, just like for random clips or linking out in our blogs. We try and talk the talk and walk the walk.
Yeah.
So that's a really easy way. Like we just looked in our actual network and said, hey, what are tools that kind of align with stuff that we do?
It's also worth mentioning for those of you who might not have like a proper network of other podcasters per se. Even let's say you're a law firm, right? And you talk about the law and the various ideas and ideologies of the law. Even just clients, if you know other lawyers, having them on the show just to help reinforce your authority. Growth isn't this linear thing where it's like, I only want to have guests if I want to get more listeners. Sometimes you also just want to reinforce to your establishing base, like, hey, I know my stuff, guys.
Another thing that you can do, we talked about the influencer economy. It's kind of hard to ignore the power of the influencer. But that's not saying you have to go out and get the crazy, like expensive influencers or the amazing celebrities like Taylor Swift. There are these micro influencers, and they basically start at people that have an audience of at least 1,000 people. 1,000, that's a pretty big number, but they actually have stronger engagement typically than
Hmm.
like these larger celebrities do. Yeah, so influencers with under 100,000 followers see the highest engagement rates of about 4% versus the less than 2% that the people over that threshold typically see. So they have double the engagement rate, which is obviously super important for somebody that's trying to get somebody to watch content or click on content to go listen to a full episode of a podcast.
Hmm.
Um, Again, that path to conversion of actual listenership is a lot stronger if you have kind of these like micro influencer type people on the show.
Yeah, and it makes sense when you say it like that because when you're a smaller influencer, you're more likely to like comments, you're more likely to reply to comments. You kind of do create your own little community with people. And I say this as a person that's like made stuff on and off for most of his life. Like you remember the person who comments and you eventually start to reinforce that and reply to that. So when you appear on a podcast at some point, that person will likely go check it out. And then I'm sure there are also other ways you
Exactly.
can
And it's
find
not,
guests. But oh yeah, no,
oh,
please.
no, go ahead. I was going to say, you don't always have to like pay an influencer, right? You having a podcast, that's a platform that a lot of people want to take advantage of. So just offering that up is pretty exciting to a lot of these like micro influencer type people. But yes, actual platforms that you can use related to podcast guest matching. Podmatch, great tool. We've worked with Podmatch in the past, just kind of talking about how can you find guests. Alex and his wife, they headed up, really awesome people, but they do have a super large network of people in podcasting that are actively looking for guests. There's a lot of swapping opportunities, that type of thing. Podchaser Connect and Matchmaker FM, you can kind of filter out guests by topic, industry, and availability. So, again, another really easy way for you to kind of source people of some type of expertise that have maybe a background in podcasting as well.
And you know what? You can also use your own show if you're looking for guests. I mean, you could literally always just be like, I have a contact email. If you're, again, going back to the lawyer thing, if you're a person that wrote a book recently about the law and you want to promote it and talk about, just like talk shop, contact this email and let's see if we're a fit. You can literally do that. I prefer my
Do lots of
roadside
things.
sign idea more, but that's just me.
I mean, it's great,
Yeah.
just be prepared for the crazies. That's all.
I welcome it. Let's do it. 555, 555. Call the number if you want me on your podcast. Anyway, once you have the guest and once you understand the values of the guest, are there some best practices we can impart on our amazing listenership on, what you can do to get the most out of their appearance?
Of course. So glad that you asked. I
It asked me to. The notes said I have to ask right now. Yeah. So
was going to say there is a script, so thank you for following it.
you're welcome.
So yeah, so you have before the episode, obviously do your research on the guest, make sure that you have some questions that they can answer and answer well. Some people do send the questions ahead of time to their guests. I've definitely been on podcasts and I've appreciated it, just making sure like, hey, we're talking about like AI, we're going to be talking about this type of, so it does kind of help a little bit, but that's more of a personal preference thing.
Mm-hmm.
Again, before the episode, and this kind of more before the release, not necessarily before the episode, because sometimes you record these things like months in advance. Just kind of curate some hype around the episode. So you're welcoming the guest, you're saying, hey, like on da 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 date, this podcast episode will be dropping featuring Nicholas. And Nicholas's audience and network is going to be like, oh my gosh, I love Nicholas. I'm definitely going to want to tune into that episode.
For sure. All three of them.
But kind of in that same vein, you have that kind of before you release the episode, and then after you release the episode, do a couple posts about it. You can use tools like Headliner to grab clips or create audiograms to just kind of continuously promote that episode and give it a little bit longer of a lifespan outside of the initial release.
Okay, cool. And one thing I want to mention as far as like, posting clips and what have you, staying in touch with the people you've guested with is a huge thing because let's say, Elissa, you're on my podcast and you're talking about your book and all that cool stuff. It would be a really good time to maybe repost a clip of you talking about your book right after the book hits some sales milestone or gets nominated for an award. Hey, maybe even wins because Elissa is a heck of a writer.
The Headliner blog, it just pops off.
It leaps off the page. Quite literally, I have a pop-up book printout of the Headliner podcast. It's quite the read. Anyway, just open it and a waveform comes out. No, but stuff like that, staying in touch with them, knowing that if they're about to renew their marketing efforts for the book they came on to promote or something, saying like, hey, maybe I'll repost this. If you want to repost this, here's a copy of it.
Yeah, definitely encouraging your guests to repost at any time is great because you're reaching your network and your audience with clips that you post. But if they post clips or just say, hey, I'm going to be on the Headliner podcast on, let's say, August 20th.
15th.
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah. Like when we actually release this, say like, hey, I'm going to be on the Headliner podcast. Now they're reaching their network of people.
Mm-hmm.
It's great.
It's awesome. It's a great thing. It's the classic, I don't know, you're going to know the saying better than I do, but it's the classic marketing thing of repetition is key. People need to hear things 3 times, whatever the old saying is.
I don't know the actual saying, but yeah.
But you know the sentiment, I'm sure.
No, I was going to say you just don't shut up. You just keep going.
Yeah.
Somebody will listen. Somebody
Be the head-on commercial.
Wasn't online that day.
Yeah.
But they're online in 3 days.
It's pretty self-explanatory, but these are good reminders, so very cool. On that note, Elissa, anything else we should know about guests?
Just try having a guest if you haven't. I would encourage you to try it. Just see. I'm not saying that it will, 100%, help you get 9 million views on your podcast.
I'm but saying it might that. Help I'm promising that. And if you have a problem with that, you could take it up with me.
Call 555.
Yeah. Or just look on the side of Route 46. I'll be the guy standing there with a sign. On that note, anyways. Thank you to everyone for listening and tolerating me today. Elissa, you gave some really great information. And on that note, I feel like we need to have a guest on our podcast at some point. But who knows? Maybe we just were that good. Maybe we don't need Taylor Swift. Anyway, thank you to everyone for listening, and we'll catch you on the very next episode.